Welcome to the Soulking Spotlight, where today we're going to be talking about Giant Bat. Wait, hold on. Are we really doing Giant Bat today, guys? Hold on. This can't be right. Yeah. Okay. Alright, let's figure this out. Alright, sorry, I'm not really ready for this one. Let's see. Ooh, we could do Halloween. Let's try that. Welcome to the Soulking Spotlight. Tonight we are looking at Giant Bat. So Giant Bat is his garbage, right? Because he's not a Soulking, he's only a 1-star naturally, he must be trash. Well, you're completely wrong. Everybody should have one of these, and honestly I'm very surprised we don't see more of them. Because this guy, although he's small, and although you don't even farm him, you have to literally buy him with random rolls, is extremely good. So let's look at why. So Giant Bat is a ranged and dark type. He also is a natural 1-star. This means he has no awakenings, and he also has very, very low base stats. So why would anybody want one of these? Well, his skills are really defining and what makes you reevaluate a simple 1-star and realize how incredibly good he actually is. His first skill is ultrasonic screech. This skill has a 1 mana cost for a 25-second cooldown and does up to 270% attack to all enemies on screen. But the damage isn't really what you want from this ability. What makes this ability great is the 7.3 second silence that is attached to it. 1 mana for a screen-wide AoE silence to everything on screen is incredible. The only drawback to this ability is it has a 25-second cooldown, which makes casting it over and over and keeping that on a chain effect a little bit hard. However, since it has a low 1 mana natural cost, it makes it extremely good, even if you have to cast it more than one time, even in a situation like a challenge tower, because of its natural low cost and its long duration. This ability is amazing. It's also worth noting that the animation on this skill is very quick. You can use it as an extremely fast interrupt. Some skills have a bit of a travel time or some sort of a lag time to where they actually hit your enemy. This one, on the other hand, it hits almost instantly as soon as the screen is done going dark. So in PvP, this is extremely beneficial, that you can see somebody with their little chat bubble coming up that they're casting an ability. You can immediately hit this and shut them up. Some people don't understand what a silence does in this game. All silence does is it interrupts your current casted ability on the enemy team, and it also prevents you from casting any further abilities later on. Now, this is great for interrupting, but it's also great for suppressing. Some people will get a bit confused and see the silence and misinterpret that as, well, they're still attacking me. They only can melee attack you when the silence is actually going. Overall, this is an amazing skill. It's great for PvP, incredible for challenge tower. It can have applications in guild boss, however not quite so much. And it's worth using. Even if his other skill totally sucked, this pick would be worth getting alone just for his first skill. Since the skill is naturally so cheap, it makes an excellent opener for a challenge tower or some sort of situation where you have to basically control the enemy with some sort of crowd control or prevent them from totally screwing your team up right off the bat. Giant Bat's second ability is Ear Shatter. It has up to a 45% screen-wide AoE defense reduction. It's also 1 mana, which is amazing, and it has a duration of 17 seconds. You have to realize a 17-second debuff is incredible. The only thing that really gets close is Piett, and Piett not only has to maximum skill that, but she also has to awaken it twice. The only real drawback to this skill is it has a 30-second delay or cooldown on it, so it makes keeping it up constantly a little bit problematic. Since it has such a long duration, and it's fairly easy to get to 50% cooldown reduction with just some gear and a leader skill, you can easily keep this up constantly. 45% defense reduction is actually pretty good. It's not the best in the game, but when paired with other strong AoE effects, it can be quite noticeable and incredible on its own. I recommend you pair a giant bat with something like a Da Vinci or a Luna to help push your AoE effects down and kill the wave even further. Giant Bat himself, even though he is a range type, does not have a lot of punch or AoE that is going to be that incredibly hard to deal with. Naturally, you will want to use Giant Bat's skills with himself, and when you do that, there is a specific order when you start a wave that you want to cast those in. You want to do the defense reduction first, and then immediately use another filler skill from somebody else, and then animation chain into ultrasonic screech. That way you have full lockdown, the defense reduction, another skill, and then come back into the silence. This is going to reduce all the defense and do the silence in one fluid motion. If you don't know what I mean by animation chaining, I strongly recommend you watch my latest video on dealing with tanky levels. It will help you tremendously. If you do this correctly and use the defense reduction move before the silence, remember that the silence actually does damage, whereas the ear shatter or defense reduction does not. And this will overall help your damage output for your team. The passive effect on him is mana absorption, and this is for the most part junk. You won't really worry about it one way or another. For gear, I only recommend one gear set, and that is the Regen or Cooldown Reduction, or commonly known as CDR. You want CDR on Giant Bat so you can keep the defense reduction and the silence up continually and constantly. For the 2 set, you could do something like attack speed or really critical rate. It really doesn't matter for the 2 set. Giant Bat is not going to be your top damage dealer. Again, you want to pair Giant Bat with other high AoE damage sources like Luna or Da Vinci, and the reason for that is that you can keep them CC'd and you can make your damage sources even higher when you shatter defense. For specifics on individual gear, I'm not going to go in a lot of detail with the exception of the cooldown reduction shield. Now, this is something I haven't gone into great detail, and I could honestly probably do an entire video on this point alone. But what you want is to have a regen set or cooldown reduction shield. Ideally, you want to farm a whole bunch of blues, and then you want to enhance those till you get at least 2 natural rolls. Once you have at least 2 natural rolls of plus cooldown reduction, then later on, after you level up the shield completely, you can then go back and use anvils or you can use diamonds to make the cooldown reduction even higher. And this benefit is extremely good not only for this character, but you can swap it around to other characters where you want to be able to chain cast a skill very. Again, cooldown reduction is the main thing that you want on Giant Bat. The other thing we could do with his passives, besides cooldown reduction, which comes from a Thunderstorm, and again that is a bit hard to farm, but really with a Da Vinci lead plus a good cooldown reduction shield, it may not even be necessary depending on your team. However, if you find it's very hard for you to farm out a nice cooldown reduction shield, then your next best bet is just to be farming out a Thunderstorm, maybe get him to 6 stars, and go ahead and throw it on Giant Bat and call it a day. You really want to keep your skills, especially the AoE silence, under 7 seconds so you can constantly keep that skill up. The other passive I would strongly recommend is Mana Regeneration. Again, you want to be able to chain cast these skills into each other. It is very easy to regenerate 1 mana over, say, 7 seconds. But again, we're probably casting more than 1 skill in that time. So any point of mana regeneration is going to help a lot. That comes from a Hecate. If you can go ahead and farm one and have her plan to use on a giant bat, it is worth doing. Mana regeneration is extremely good in this game. So when do we use a giant bat? Well, he's honestly good for all applications of the game. He's not going to be a huge damage source, and he's not going to carry you through a ton of levels, but there are some that he will carry you. The biggest example of this is probably Challenge Tower. Challenge Tower requires to have a lot of quick CC effects to prevent something from casting, like a Leonard doing a dance, or some sort of crazy AoE nuke. In Challenge Tower, it's very difficult to yield or create a pure single color team. In fact, some of the top players like myself that have cleared Challenge Tower are not using one color per tower. I had one guild member that got a giant bat going and then used that giant bat to literally clear about 30 levels from 40 all the way through 70 on dark, back to back. He said it was incredibly easy once he had giant bat working, and it worked with his current system. Giant bat can also be extremely useful in PvP, especially on your second siege team or any kind of situation where you just need to silence everything. In addition, you can reduce defense, and this is good for dealing with tanks, and if you can chain cast this, you can almost guarantee a win. The biggest issue or caveat to this is if a Joan or a Seek is able to make it past the silence, it's probably dead. Why would you use a giant bat over something in another debuffer class like a Sabinus? The Sabinus does reduce more armor, and it's going to help your damage in your team be better. However, Sabinus requires an energy skill. You may have a heavily based mana regeneration team, and Giant Bat provides CC, whereas Sabinus does not. Giant Bat is a very, very well-rounded debuffer that everybody should just go ahead and grab. This guy is 100% farmable. You don't even have to clear in adventure mode. You can just spend 200k or whatever it is at the Hall of Heroes, and chances are you're going to get a couple of them. Do that several times and you'll easily have one maxed out. Having a character that can provide extremely strong AoE CC in addition to debuffing makes this pick incredible. Some of the only cons to Giant Bat are going to be his lower stats. Again, he has a base 1 star. That means if you compare him to something like a Luna, his base attack, if you leveled him to 120 and fully promoted him, is still about 1,000 attack left than something like a Luna. He is never going to be your primary damage source. However, if you change your methodology of thinking about when you would use him and why you would use him, you start to realize there are better ways to use heroes in general. Besides lower stats, the only other real drawback to him is his long cooldowns. 25 seconds on his first skill and 30 seconds on his second skill. You really need cooldown reduction to narrow those down so you can keep these effects going constantly. So my verdict for Giant Bat is a solid 4 stars. I think he is worth everybody grinding one out. He's extremely versatile, and he should be on everybody's team. And you know what? Even me, recently, I've gotten into having a Giant Bat and realizing what an incredible character it is. As always, thank you for watching. I hope this video was informative and maybe eye-opening. There are a lot of heroes and picks that people just glaze over and never really have a second thought about. When you change your methodology of thinking in this game and you have your eyes opened a little bit, there are things that are achievable that are very interesting and what sets Soulking apart from some of the other games. Please like, share, and subscribe, and place a comment below if you have a specific guide request or maybe a specific Soulking spotlight you would like to.
No. Freaky bat, babe. Ah, what the hell is that thing? Oh, hot mama, come to papa.